That Great Business Show, Ireland's best business podcast.
Welcome to episode 134 of That Great Business Show, posting on the 7th of April 2023. I am Conal O'Mora and Fáilte. Coming up, business tips, insights and opportunities, all in a walk or commute-friendly 45 minutes, thanks to DoneDeal.ie. Shortly, we'll have a social tailor. A social tailor, says you. Yep, a social tailor, says I. And you'll just have to listen to find out what that person does. But if you want to sell better, you'd better listen. Also, a most unusual accountancy practice that's expanding into Northern Ireland, if you know of suitable practices for sale, that is. And would you like to be the producer of That Great Business Show? Well, coming up with great ideas is part of the brief. And if you pop over to our website, thatgreatbusinessshow.com, you can tell us how you would improve Ireland's best business show. And then you can tell all your mates, you're a podcast producer. This is the last week. The responses to our survey have been great so far. So please, just give us 5 minutes of your time, give us some great ideas and make a difference. All our business tips and insights are brought to you thanks to our sponsor, DoneDeal Motors. It's the only place to go for your new or second-hand motor, all from the convenience of your phone.
DoneDeal Motors is home to Ireland's largest range of new and premium used cars. That's why you'll find cars from Audi and BMW dealerships on DoneDeal. Are you looking for a 7-seater to accommodate your growing family? Maybe you're after a luxury saloon to make a statement. We have the car for you. You'll also find Ireland's largest range of electric cars to help you make the switch. Visit DoneDeal.ie today to start the search for your next car.
De facto shaving oil, the world's best shaving oil. Made in Mayo, sold worldwide.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
Now, Ireland's biggest earner has been on to us again. Regular listeners will know that I'm talking about super supporter Bob Hamilton, founder of Irish Earns, get it? .ie. He told us that Louise Langton was almost, but not quite, finished doing some work for him. Amongst the many positives that he had to say about someone he called a remarkable lady was, she's high energy, charming, intelligent, professional, and effortlessly brings added value to every interaction. Bob says that branding and web design guru Louise Langton, who trades as the social tailor, designs not just for the aesthetic or for the user experience, but for the sale. Louise Langton, welcome to That Great Business Show.
What an introduction. No pressure at all.
But when it comes from Bob Hamilton, he knows what he's talking about. And he said, he actually emailed me and he told me, you have got to have this woman on.
Bob is on the ball. There's no doubt about it. If you haven't met Bob, you know, he is really on the ball.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't meet Bob, because Bob is, when you mentioned, sales earns. So if you're doing business with Bob,
his expectations are high. That's
well, no,
for sure.
Not just that, but you might be heading one way. So,
yeah, well, attach yourself to Bob because he's a good businessman. He knows what he's doing.
He certainly does. Ex-Bank of Ireland, and he's now also Trees, Irish, what is it, Trees?
IrishTrees.ie.
You better get it out because he's going to love you all the more for it.
Yeah.
The social tailor. Why do you call yourself the social tailor?
Yeah, great question, because, you know, I build websites and I do branding, but they're not out of the box template websites. They're bespoke and they're tailored for every business that I work with.
And why? Because if I go online, I can see Wix and I can see lots of other ones. Click of a button, click, 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 all done, happy people.
Yeah, and they look great. And if you're a small Irish business and you're low budget and you're getting into setting up your business, why wouldn't you just build your own website? Why wouldn't you? And a lot of the companies that do that come to me about a year or two down the line and wonder why no one's landing on their website. Nobody's shopping, nobody's clicking anything. In fact, they aren't even aware of whether customers are going onto their website or not. So I think, yes, to put up like a landing page or a home page, that looks okay on the surface. Whether anyone can find it or not, that is a whole other ballgame.
And the reason that one of the reasons that Bob mentioned you was because of that sale thing, because strictly speaking, you're not a techie. You have a past, as they say.
I do, a dark past. I do. Well, I suppose I'm coming to web design from a business point of view. So 20 years ago, I studied web design in college and graphics. And
was there a web back 20 years ago?
There actually was, believe it or not. We were really lucky in the 90s. We didn't have what everyone else had, like a Sega or a Nintendo. We had a desktop. So we were the nerdy kids. We didn't have the cool stuff. So we had a desktop. So really early on, I was using DOS. I was like a little nerd, programming and all that kind of stuff. So I went to college in like 2000 and studied web design and graphics, animation, video, photography. They had loads of multimedia courses. And then I went on to study fine art in IADT, which I quickly realised just wasn't commercial, wasn't like a commercial kind of role. And that the difference between art and design has a function and a purpose, and art is a completely different thing altogether. So after all that, I went into buying. Of course, it's the natural progression.
And by buying, you're not talking about going around to shops buying. You are talking as being a buyer for shops.
Yeah. After I left college, I worked in Cleary's at a little jewellery stand, Pulse Accessories. And over that summer, it just developed and I became the store manager. And then 6 months later, I moved out to their wholesale showroom and set up their first wholesale showroom. We were doing all the shows in the RDS. I was learning about pricing, about product. And about a year after that, there was an opening in buying. On a Friday and on a Wednesday, I was on a flight to China. And I spent the following 12 years going backwards and forwards to China and Korea and India and Europe and wholesale shows and developing products and packaging and branding for loads of Irish companies. The chances are you've probably bought something that I've made, is the crux of it.
Which proves yet again what you do in college or in school or wherever you might get an education doesn't always translate into what you end up doing.
No, but it's good training and it's good foundational stuff. But the experience is really, I've had to deal with containers of all of our Christmas stock going on fire. You don't learn in college how to deal with that, like at the spur of a moment.
You get a hose and you put it out. What did you do?
Oh, we replaced all our stock. You need a good network of suppliers that you can tap into all the time. If you're reliant on one, you're in big trouble. So you need to keep all those relationships really well balanced along with their payments and everything else. So, it was an amazing experience, really, but there was a lot of flying. So then I went on anyway to work as a buyer for Aldi, which was a completely different ballgame. You're going from a medium-sized Irish company where it was, you're developing ranges, going into maybe Duns or Heaton's and you're presenting ranges and everything's amazing and you're doing their branding. And the next Friday, you're down pulling boxes out of a container in the warehouse and pulling allocations for stores. That's what small Irish businesses do. You don't stick to what your job role says. But in Aldi, it was totally different. Everything was procedural driven, timed, so organised. So to see the difference between the two of those and how planning makes such a big difference. And it's not about having a big budget. It's about being organised, and every small Irish business can have an element of that. So when I'm coming back then to doing the web design, I'm always thinking commercially, how are we actually going to sell this product? It's not about a homepage, an About Me page. And, a 10-year-old can tell you that. It's about how do we sell the product.
And I'll come back to that in a second because I need to find out some dark secrets from Aldi. One of the things you just told me was, coming up to Christmas, you have bought or you have prepared 1 year ago.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's the kind of planning. And it's retail. Anyone that's ever worked in retail, it evolves. You have to be reactive, but you plan for the 80% and the 20% is firefighting. That's kind of the goal, but there's always going to be something. Your competitor might come out with something. But to plan 6 months to a year ahead, even we had a lovely partnership with the IRFU and we brought out a lovely clothing range of all the rugby stuff, and they're still doing all the stickers in store and all that kind of stuff for the schools. That had to be planned like months and months ahead. A year ahead, for the production, delivery, organised for the stores, all the stuff that's involved from the very concept to actually getting it to hit shelves for customers.
Did it do your head in eventually?
No, No, it didn't. I would recommend going to work. I absolutely loved working for Aldi. There was a group of 50 or 60 buyers, predominantly women, which was great. And the teamwork that went on there is unbelievable. They have a fantastic team, and that's why their products are so good. It was a really hard decision to leave. Hard.
But you took that decision.
Packed up my plants and my calculator in my little box, and it was a really sad day leaving. But it was time for me to go out on my own. I'd been thinking about it for a long time. And in the background a few years earlier, when I was working as an accessories buyer, I had been kind of doing little markets at the weekend, selling bits of products, and I had my own little website. So I'd kept the website thing up in the background all along, just because, 1999, everyone's coding. 2020, there's no coding. It's all builders. There's software for everything now, even though, it's great to have the foundations there. So it was time. It was something I'd been thinking about for a long time. Like a lot of, I'm sure, business people will tell you, you just have to go for it.
Now, Bob Hamilton can afford you, but many of our listeners couldn't possibly afford you.
Why'd you say that?
But the reason that you're here is we're going to pick your brains.
Great.
And get free advice from you. So from the top, what should an ambitious small Irish firm do with a website? What is the one that you say, oh, God, that's terrible?
Yeah. Do you know what I would really, hand on my heart, advise? Even when I was going to set up Social Tailor, my own business, one of the first things you do is you go and you'd look for an accountant. You wouldn't dream of sitting down and learning from scratch how to do a limited company's accounts. You know in your head it's a 4-year degree course. There's a lot that goes in behind it. And it's exactly the same with a website. If you can outsource it, do it, because it's going to be the best it can be, rather than going into Wix or whatever and trying to set up one for yourself. Get it done professionally. That's what I would recommend. I've so many business coming to me that a year or two down the road, they're just trying to figure out, but I built this website and I don't think anyone's landing on it, or no one ever books in for an appointment. I wonder why, so.
And what are they doing wrong?
It's not optimized, so it's not Google friendly. Google are our best friend and they're also our worst enemy, because we've got to play by the rules. When our customers type in, how do I get rid of this back pain? How do I get rid of shoulder pain? You want your physiotherapy clinic to pop up. How do you get your website to do that? That's exactly what I do. And
is there not a YouTube that would explain all of the above?
There is. So if you've got about 4 years and time, to sit down and go through all of those, can anyone build a website? Absolutely they can. But as a business owner, whatever you started your business for, it doesn't matter if it's Julie's Candles. You started the business to actually make amazing scented candles that you want your customers to enjoy. You didn't start it to spend between 6 o'clock at night and 1 o'clock in the morning every night trying to figure out why your website's not working. So I would say, do what you're good at, spend your time with your customers and on your products, and put your energy where it's needed and where your business is going to benefit the most from.
And I haven't asked you this question, but I presume that you have some lovely examples of successes of yours, so that you went from 0 to 100 miles an hour. What have you done? What have you managed to do for clients? Well,
I got an opportunity to build a lovely website there just over Christmas. Actually, it's a product that's on the shelves in Aldi, but I didn't meet them through Aldi. They're called the Cookie Dough Company. It's cookiedough.ie.
I know of them, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a fantastic project to work on, because I didn't do their branding myself, but I adopted it for the website, and it's really trendy. It's 90s. It's really like bang on trend, and their website is flying now. They're doing really well.
What have you done, or what did they do that has made it so successful?
Well, it's hand in hand. So it's like your website and your social media should really be talking to each other and going hand in hand. Your social media is a great platform to actually talk and engage with your customers, and your website is your platform where customers actually will go and buy and see that it's a real company.
And your social media nowadays, it keeps moving. That's one of the issues. I was a big Twitter user. Twitter's down.
Yeah.
Twitter's not dead, but it's heading that way. What are you using?
I use Instagram because it's such a visual platform, and I'm going to be moving over to TikTok shortly as well.
And what will that mean for you and for your clients? I mean, go back to the urns. These are urns for dead people's ashes. How are you going to put them onto TikTok?
I mean, it's possible. It is absolutely possible. It's one of the nice things about having a good concept of what your company ethos is and your brand. And when I say your brand, I don't mean your logo. Your brand is your customer service. It's your logo on your invoices. At every point that a customer touches your business, that's your brand. It's the ethos of your business. It's what your customers say about you when you're not in the room. So how would you portray yourself across on TikTok if you were Irish Urns or Irish Trees? There's always a way to do that.
And does it have to be fun? Or?
Doesn't have to be funny videos. I mean, I certainly wouldn't recommend comedy videos for TikTok for Irish Urns. Definitely.
That's what I was thinking. Trying to avoid. So what would you do?
Well, while social media is not one of my services, I would probably I would recommend a much calmer approach and something that's more appropriate to the brand. I mean, video is key. Video is absolutely king, especially when it comes to your customers searching for your products or for your company. If you don't have video, you're really going to get lost.
Max length for that video, 45 seconds, longer?
30 to 45, I would say. Yeah, just really short, really digestible for customers and really to the point. Something I see a lot of businesses do, and there's a lot of fluff. A, B, C. Tell your customers what you do and don't be afraid to be repetitive. You know yourself, when you go onto your phone now, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, there's so much to pick from. There's just so much in the feed, so much. You have to be repetitive. You have to be repetitive.
That's interesting because that was, of course, done stores back in the long time ago where they were better value beats them all.
Yeah.
And if they beat that into you to the point that I now still sing it probably 300 years later.
Yeah.
And in terms of SEO, search engine optimization, that you do, that's a forever moving problem or issue for companies because keywords, they move.
Yep.
And your opposition is moving and. What's the answer, or what's the key to that one?
I mean, being practical is a really huge part of it. You know, you can kind of play the Google game and put in what you think Google wants, but actually all Google is trying to do is make your website as searchable as possible. From a techie point of view, there's loads of software you can get. I use a piece of software called Rank Math, and it measures everything on the website. So I plug it all in, we optimize the whole website, make it as Google friendly as possible, and then we measure it. Anything you measure, you can improve, just to make it as commercial as possible. Because there's no point. It's like if you had a retail store, you wouldn't open it down the back of an industrial estate with no sign over the front. So when you build a website and you don't make it Google friendly, that's essentially what you're doing. The whole point is to make your customers find you and buy. You know, we've all got mortgages. That's the whole point. Yeah.
And Google or Google only, or do you ever think of any of the other search engines anymore?
Well, I think the top search on Bing is Google. So
that says it all.
That'll tell you everything you need to know.
And Google itself is, I mean, there are attempts trying to rein Google in. Has it made any difference at all, or?
I think it'll be a slow change. It's like turning a tanker. They just have such a huge monopoly. So unless something drastic in the market happens, and we've seen big drastic changes across industries over the last 6 months to a year with all everything being let go and the turn down in the tech industry. But no, I don't think Google's really going anywhere.
And do you advertise on behalf of your clients on Google? Do you use Google Ads?
I don't, no.
Why is that?
So SEO is actually a really specific and functional job. I optimize all of the websites, but I don't advertise on Google Ads. It's just not part of my service. And it's like, say, for example, if you had a tiler and a plumber in the kitchen, you wouldn't ask the plumber to put so we work in the same room, but we don't do the same job. It's okay. Marketing and advertising rather than website SEO.
And there's far more to SEO, to search engine optimization, than just a keyword, I presume. Is it what else is built into that or baked into it?
There's metadata, there's markup schema, there's lots. There's so many things. How your website, how your page is structured, if you have the right headings, if you've all your keywords built into it, if you've links in and out of your website, but Google prefers links within your website as well. If you've got video, if you've got images, all the images have data behind them that have to be put in as well. So there's a couple of layers, there's a couple of things.
Do you use LinkedIn at all?
I do a small bit. I get a few customers contacting me through LinkedIn, but I'm not on it enough as anyone is.
But you don't try to sell through LinkedIn, do you?
I don't really know. No, to be honest, I haven't really needed it. I started the business last January, so I'm just over a year, and Last year was good. This year has been double, but it's all been just through people referring me. So actually...
Like Bob?
Like good old Bob, yeah. So I haven't really needed social media. I know that's a crazy thing to say in 2023, but I haven't really relied on social media at all for work yet. So we'll see. I mean, I'll keep it tipping over, just...
We will run out of time in about a few minutes. So 2 things that to do and 2 things just don't do it that somebody is listening to.
2 things to do. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
What does that actually mean?
Like actually tell your customers what you're doing. Make it really, really easy and straightforward for your customers.
I sell tiles.
Exactly.
Do you have to say, I sell really nice tiles? Do you have to say, I sell Indian tiles?
You could get into that. I mean, they say Coca-Cola doesn't sell Coke, they sell friendship, because they have all this stuff on the front of their bottles and all that kind of stuff. And they've, a $10 million budget for their marketing. Just start by telling customers what you actually do and make it as easy for customers as possible to buy. This is our product with a lovely button underneath to click where to buy. And a lot of websites just don't do those really basics. So definitely do that.
They're the do's and the do-nots.
The do-nots. There's so many to pick from.
Well, just a big one.
A really nice one. Don't, if you're doing your own website, please don't put text on top of an image. Nobody can read it. I see it on so many websites. Please don't do it.
If you put black text onto a white background, surely you can read that.
There you go. Now you're talking. Keep it simple. There you go. ABC. Yeah.
Okay. Louise, there is a final question that we ask everybody, and I hope you read your email. She's looking at me as if...
No, I did. I did a course.
Phew.
I did a course, yeah.
Hire in a heartbeat. Who would Louise Langton hire in a heartbeat?
Do you know who I'd love to partner with or have on my team? Someone actually that I have been following for years and saw at Enterprise Week do a lovely talk is Sonia Lennon. Yep. She's an amazing advocate for women in business, and they only launched their Lift program there like 2 years ago, but she's phenomenal. Yeah.
And she has gone through another pivot, I think, is she? I think that she's, I think the Lennon-McCartney, I was going to say Lennon-McCartney,
yes.
Courtney Lennon-Courtney is now no longer, but she's doing other stuff as well.
It's out of Duns, but I think they're supplying across Europe now. Yeah, yeah.
Why not? 550 million?
She's not going anywhere, that's for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, we will tell Sonia that you want her and you need her maybe Tuesday.
Tuesday would be good. Okay. Monday would be even better.
Okay. Anybody who wants to contact you will find you where, Louise Langton?
socialtailor.ie.
Lovely name. socialtailor.ie. You chose a .ie, not a .com. Why?
It's Irish.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Irish. Some customers know that you have to be in Ireland or have an Irish address to have the .ie rather than the .com, and couldn't move out of Ireland. I'm not planning on the .com down the road, so yeah, the .ie.
Louise, thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
DoneDeal Motors is home to Ireland's largest range of new and premium used cars. That's why you'll find cars from Audi and BMW dealerships on DoneDeal. Are you looking for a 7-seater to accommodate your growing family? Maybe you're after a luxury saloon to make a statement. We have the car for you. You'll also find Ireland's largest range of electric cars to help you make the switch. Visit DoneDeal.ie today to start the search for your next car.
Viscosity. When you shave, you want the highest viscosity because it helps the blade run smoother. De facto, the world's best shaving oil, has incredible viscosity. That's why De facto leaves your face, underarms, or legs nick-free. Higher viscosity makes blades last longer. De facto is the best for your skin and your pocket. DeFactoShave.com.
All that great business show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
The Irish economy has so transformed over the last couple of decades as pharma has overtaken farming in its strict economic importance. However, that pharma industry relies on 18 of the world's top 20 pharma companies, while farming still pays its part, in part or in full, the livelihoods of 250,000 people. Farm and farm-related advisory firms remain important, of course. like IFAC. Founded in 1975, it employs around 500 people in 30 offices right around the country. And it may be a sign of changing times that IFAC has said it's moving more into advising a broader range of family businesses. John Donoghue is CEO of IFAC, but before he became IFAC top dog, he also worked on Boggs. He was an extra on Saving Private Ryan. He made electronic shaving kits for Braun. He made pizzas for Pauldy's and Nace, and he even worked for Dennis O'Brien selling call plans door to door. John Donoghue, CEO of IFAC, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thanks, Conal. Great to be here. Yeah,
you were busy.
I learned a lot of lessons along that road, Conal, I can tell you that, Yeah.
You were 10 years old when you used the word footing on the bog.
Yeah.
And that was to buy footy boots.
Yeah. Some people would probably call it stacking, but we call it foot and turf. And basically you take it up from being wet, stack it, it dries, then you can bring it home and burn it.
And you moved from the heady days on the bog to boss man at IFAC, and you worked your way up. You are an accountant by trade.
I am. Yeah.
And IFAC itself is a very big operation. Not everybody knows about it.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I think out in the regions we're very well known, and probably inside the M50 a little bit less well known, right? But
the Pale, as we used to call it.
Exactly. So look, we're 500 people, 30 locations, about 22,000 clients. So of that 22,000, we have 16,000 farmers. About 2,000 agri and associated businesses, so people who supply farms and buy from farms, and then we have about 4,000 SMEs. So that's the shape of the farm, multidisciplinary, providing loads of services, everything from accounting to tax planning, advisory, wealth planning, HR and payroll, business transformation projects, you name it. Yeah.
And is it that you have seen the writing on the wall? That you are now looking at two things. One is moving a little bit away from the farming side, or, we're obviously keeping a close eye on it, but moving beyond that. And also, you've just told me that you're eyeing maybe your first export market into Northern Ireland.
I suppose we've seen the opportunity on the wall. That's probably a better way of putting it, because we've a huge amount of expertise and value that we bring to that farming, food, agribusiness space. And over the years, looking after as many as 4,000 SMEs, we found that a lot of needs are the same, Conal. So it's things like succession planning, structuring businesses for sale or acquisition, tax planning, wealth planning, all that kind of stuff. And that fits very nicely with that family business market. We've been in it, but we're going to get a lot bigger in it, Conal. That's essentially what the plan is. And more focus on it, and maybe tell more people about what we can do in that marketplace.
But BDO Simpson Xavier, a name I'm sure that you've heard, they started off, I'd say, in the mid-80s or thereabouts. And that was their target market. And they built to about 550 odd people, I think, at the top. Lots of other accountancy firms are smacking there, all hoping to do your succession advisory, to do your family business, because it is most of what goes on in Ireland, isn't it?
It is, and we obviously know it's a competitive marketplace, but we feel our proposition is quite unique, because what we do is we bring centralised, high-level expertise into 30 markets around the country, and nobody else is really doing that. So it's local access to high-level expertise in your community. Come see us, and we can deliver anything that a top 10 firm can deliver, and that's very attractive. And people like to do business with people who look and sound and feel like they do. And we're in those markets, we're active, we're part of their communities, and we already have extensive connections in those markets. So we think it's a natural kind of symbiotic fit for us there as well, Conal. That's the logic.
Farming. Talk to me about the future of farming. It's not all obviously doom and gloom, but there must be some very, very big fundamental shifts happening, and about to happen even more of in the next just 3 to 5 years, maybe?
Conal, I think there's maybe a slight misunderstanding around the farming piece. Like if you look at farming in Ireland in, let's say, 1975, our foundation year, look at the dairy sector specifically, 144,000 dairy farmers, right? Today there's about 15,000 dairy farmers.
Whoa, so that is a drop.
Yeah, it's a 90% contraction in the marketplace. Now, so what was happening? 1975, 3 or 4 cows, you're a dairy farmer. Now an average dairy farm is 80 to 100 cows and getting bigger all the time, really. So it's a contraction in the number of people farming, but the scale of farming has increased substantially. 3.5 billion litres worth of, 3.5 billion litres of milk supplied in 1975. That's around 10 billion litres now, give or take. So a huge kind of consolidation has taken place. And we think that consolidation will continue to happen at a slightly slower pace over the next few years. So we're seeing consolidation, we're seeing farms getting bigger, we're seeing output getting bigger and fewer people farming. But that's probably happening in lots of industries as well, Conal.
It is, of course, but why do you say the consolidation is going to slow down? Obviously, when you're coming from this vast number down, but is it not time to get the hoover out and to actually really go for consolidation? It doesn't have to be in a bad way. It could be a very positive way.
Look, the big question is farm viability. So is your farm viable for the next generation or not? And I suppose we would see that a lot of people in the dairy sector now have viable businesses, at least for the next generation, right? So will that 15,000 dairy farmers become 12,000 or 10,000 over the next few years? Very, very possible. But the output in terms of milk output probably continuing to increase through efficiencies and various technologies and things like that. And for us, I suppose, as a firm, Conal, it's kind of a case of the bigger a business gets, the more needs they have and the better position we are to look after them and the more unique our proposition becomes. So we're seeing things like smaller accounting firms now deciding, look, this guy has scaled to a certain level within the agri sector. Really, he should be with IFAC, and we're getting that kind of referral as well. So that consolidation and concentration is probably good for us in the medium term anyway. And the lean into the family business market is to support all the work that we do within the farming, food and agribusiness market as well. So there's a few different things happening there.
And talk to me about agribusiness, because the more I read about them, there are some incredible businesses out there. In fact, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I could rattle off names. We had Magritech on recently.
Yeah.
Somebody was talking to me about a farm machine manufacturer. Is it McHale?
Yeah.
And of course, they had Harty down in Kerry, who's just retired out of there or recently retired, etc., etc. There are some incredible businesses.
Yeah, and I suppose really they're our biggest success story as a country. Agri-innovation. Ireland is definitely a hotbed of agri-innovation. And there is this idea that if you can prove it here, you can kind of do it anywhere. Yeah, in terms of
Sinatra might have sung about that.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of agribusiness, food business, if you can do it here, you can kind of do it anywhere. And we have a global reputation for very high quality food product and for innovation on farms, and that's something that allows our agribusinesses to kind of travel well as well. So you're talking about people like McHale's and Dairy Mastering, but they're the big ones. And there's loads of other agribusinesses around that are doing really well as well, and fantastic innovations in place. And yeah, it's an exciting place to be, really, Conal, in that sense. You know?
And that is kind of the analysis. So now talk to me about what needs to be done further. Funding is always a big issue. Oddly enough, we're a wealthy country relative to others, but we don't seem to have a big pot of investment money anywhere.
There's actually a nice bit of capital around if you know how to access it, Conal, I suppose is the thing.
Talk to me, where?
Yeah. There are lots of private equity players in the market, very willing to invest in businesses that have a compelling proposition. And one of the things that we would do with clients, particularly through our food and agribusiness consulting team, is get them investment ready. You know, now whether that investment is coming from somebody like Enterprise Ireland or it's coming from private equity players, you need to have a compelling story. You need to have financials that actually stand up to scrutiny. You need to speak the language of finance. You know, there's no point in going in to talk to people and all you have is a story. It has to be a story underwritten by numbers. And you know that question of, you know, what's the difference between accounting and finance? Well, accounting's the past and finance is the future. And we sit right kind of between those two stools. So we're looking for great businesses with potential that we can actually put a little bit of polish on, help them get investment and drive on from there. That's part of what we do.
Yeah, but go back to, again, you say Enterprise Ireland, fine, that's almost the go-to, but now that's the state backing it, and theoretically, well, there could be a discussion in Europe about that one. On the other side, though, in trying to access private funding, it is not like going around London. London is filthy rich. It is not like California. They're equally filthy rich, even maybe richer still. But that funding is not there, even though there are, as you say, lots of opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, look, it really depends on what the stage of development is for the business. Like an established business that can show cash flow and revenues, there's generally lots of people to invest in that. And if you look at the equity space, you'll have people at various levels of risk that are willing to take on various levels of risk depending on what stage of development the company is at. I suppose startups are the hard one, really. And they're the ones where you haven't yet proven that you can sell a product. And that's where things like HBS
they're the guys who need the help. And in the States and in the UK and across Europe a little bit more so. But they are getting that help.
Yeah. The answer is not always money either, though, Conal, because, I mean, a well-funded bad plan is still a bad plan. And so, I mean, giving somebody a significant amount of money to as sometimes you will hear, right, to burn, right, which I think is a terrible phrase, right? What's your burn rate, you know? And like we would have obviously people in our client pool who invest in lots of businesses, but they're conservative investors. And you walk in and you use a phrase like burn rate, their jackets on before you sat down. So I mean, it's that thing of getting a structure right. But I think there is significant supports in the Irish economy, and I wouldn't underestimate the impact that someone like Enterprise Ireland has.
Oh no, we're huge fans of theirs. I come back to the point, though, that you said it, we, by our nature in Ireland, are very conservative in what we invest in, unless there's a few odds. You're too young to remember, we used to invest in oil. Do you remember that thing?
Yeah.
There's a few nut jobs who went for crypto and stuff. Yeah. But in actual bread and butter, ordinary investing, it really has to be very, very plain vanilla.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now you've networks like HBAN as well, where the risk capital is probably a little bit more open to the startup piece. But could more be done? Of course, more could be done, Conal. Is the answer always money? Not always.
Yeah. What would you like the government to do though? Because again, look, I could spend all afternoon talking to you about these ideas. Is trying to liberate some of that money. There's tons of money sitting in banks. It's sitting in credit unions, which is not being used productively.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And with the rise in interest rates, there's going to be more of that money sitting there. That's the reality of it. In terms of what government could do, I think the tax structures are quite favourable already. They could be improved, but you have to be making money before you have a tax problem. So that's a different day's work. More funding, yes, I would say more funding could go into the marketplace. Maybe less restrictive in terms of how that funding is used. So often you see equity shareholdings going with certain levels of funding that might be a little bit unrealistic for a startup. Some of those kinds of things. But I suppose we're talking about risk capital here, and we're talking about the taxpayer. And so would I be incentivising the taxpayer to take on more risk capital? I don't think so. Risk capital exposure, So I think there's a lot of good stuff.
You're beginning to sound like the Department of Finance.
Well, I just think there's a lot of good stuff happening. And I think if a business is actually compelling and worth supporting, I think the supports are there.
But you're talking, and correctly so, about businesses that are actually making money or who've actually started the journey in a bigger way. But what about the early stage? The guys that are being backed by Leos, fabulously so, that are in the sectors that you know and love, like food and agri-tech, and yet finding it quite difficult, and more so, getting more difficult, I think, from what I understand, to get funding.
I'd say, look, Con, you need the right professional advice around you really to get that funding.
Here comes the ad.
Well, it's a case of if your story is compelling enough, your financial projections are reasonable, you understand the language of finance, and you have something that actually might have market applicability, and you have some proof of concept, right? There's an investment market there for that, Now, if you talk to people who have, ultra small businesses and micro businesses, let's say, and maybe haven't generated revenue or have generated very small amounts of revenue or have products that are already stocked on every single shelf in the country, they're going to have it very difficult to find funding because maybe it's just not compelling enough for the investor.
We won't go into names, but I think I saw very, very recently an Irish company that might be making 7 million and had a valuation of 1 billion.
Yeah.
I want to see how that was achieved, but that's curious.
Yeah.
John, we're going to take a quick break, and I want to come back to you to see where you are going to bring IFAC. Let's just take a quick break and talk to our sponsors.
DoneDeal Motors is home to Ireland's largest range of new and premium used cars. That's why you'll find cars from Audi and BMW dealerships on DoneDeal. Are you looking for a 7-seater to accommodate your growing family? Maybe you're after a luxury saloon to make a statement. we have the car for you. You'll also find Ireland's largest range of electric cars to help you make the switch. Visit DoneDeal.ie today to start the search for your next car.
Viscosity. When you shave, you want the highest viscosity because it helps the blade run smoother. De facto, the world's best shaving oil, has incredible viscosity. That's why De facto leaves your face, underarms, or legs nick-free. Higher viscosity makes blades last longer. De facto is the best for your skin and your pocket. DeFactoShave.com.
All that great business show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
And with me at the moment is John Donoghue, who is CEO of IFAC. John, I asked you there just before the break about where you are going to bring IFAC, because the business keeps growing. Every time I talk to people from IFAC, you've grown a little bit more.
Yeah, we're growing really quickly, actually, Conal, and over the last 6 or 7 years, we've doubled our business. We're a 30 million turnover business now, which is ninth largest by turnover, probably largest in terms of client number, because our fee per client is lower, which is another advantage of doing business with IFAC. But,
let me pick you up on that one.
Yeah.
How come or why do you have a lower fee per client?
Well, I think if you look at our marketplace, founded in 1975, a cooperative model, so we're owned by our farmer shareholders, and part of that mission is to make services affordable for that marketplace. So I think in terms of growth into the future, we will certainly grow in the farmer space. We're growing, it's a compelling story, we're growing all the time there. We're growing in the food space, growing in agribusiness. And that next step really is to grow in a more cohesive and concentrated way within the family business market. We've just appointed a partner to head up the SME area for us. He's with us 6-7 years, and he's going to focus particularly on SMEs. His name's Gerald Condon. He's from County Cork, and he's focused on that, and we're going to drive in that direction.
But it's an SME, and I don't mean to be rude about this, but there's an SME on every street corner in this country. How is he going to concentrate on SMEs? Is he going to stick in Cork? And there's plenty of businesses down there. Or what's the deal?
Well, we have a 3-hub strategy at the moment. So in Naas, County Kildare, Kilkenny and Cork are our 3 let's call it larger SME hubs, right? Because we deal with SMEs all around the country. But what we're really looking at here is good-sized family businesses that have done really well, built successful businesses, and are looking for that next stage of professional advisor to be around them and give them a more cohesive service. And that's where we're really going to focus. And there are lots of those businesses, Conal, and they're not that well served.
And how are you going to service the Dublin or the Pale, within the Pale market?
Well, we're active in Dublin as well, of course we are. And we've lots of clients around Dublin, and we will service them really from Naas, which is our hub. We've just recently sold our building here in Dublin.
You told me that you have to speak their language. You're not going to speak, I can hear your Kildare accent there.
Yeah.
That's not Dublin.
It's not, but I mean, look, if you look around Dublin, how many people in Dublin have come from outside the Pale and set up their business successfully, Conal? So, but no, we do lots of business with Dublin businesses as well, and it's good. You know.
And you're heading to Northern Ireland. What are you going to do there?
Well, we've been looking at Northern Ireland for a couple of years, and I suppose we already do a certain amount of business in the north for clients that have operations in the south as well. And we're looking for a partner in Northern Ireland at the moment. So we acquire businesses as well. We've 2 acquisitions ongoing at the moment, and we've acquired probably 6-7 practices over the last few years. We probably get a call a month from retiring practitioners or people who want to actually come in and use our brand and use our central services and use our expertise in tax and audit and business planning and all those things. So we're looking for a partner of suitable scale in Northern Ireland that will give us an entry point in the market where we can buy and build. So that's what we're doing there.
And that seems to be a kind of a fashion in the industry at the moment, is the consolidation. There were 2, I think, relatively big purchases in the last month or 2 in the accountancy field. Were you chasing either of those 2, and did you miss out on them?
We weren't, and I think the thing here to remember, Conal, is that capital alone won't make it happen in the Irish marketplace, right? It's really about people, and there is a huge shortage of qualified people, high quality people at the moment within the professional services market. And I think being a compelling employer is probably more important than having access to capital. Now, we do have access to capital, of course we do, we're a large business and all that kind of thing, but we're working very hard on being a great place to work. And that's attracting a pool of talent that we probably haven't had before. So we like to combine internal people that we've grown up in the business and have a great sense of who we are, understand our culture, our values, our ethos, and bring in the right mix of talent at the right time, blend the whole lot together and make sure that we have great people delivering great services to great clients. That's the whole ethos.
You are co-op owned. How it would be natural for a young fellow, young lady who wants to get on in the industry to go into a partnership, because that's where they're going to get value. How can they get value out of working with you?
Well, I think we definitely tailor packages that are market leading. Right, so I don't think anybody's going to earn less than they would with us elsewhere. You won't
get them.
Yeah, you have to pay well to get good people. So we definitely do that. I suppose, look, Conal, partnership is the most dangerous ship to be on, right? And when we go around the country, we meet loads of accountants, and they're in partnerships. They very rarely last. So what you have is one-man bands.
John,
this is a true story, Conal.
But you look at all the large companies.
Yeah.
They've survived now. Okay, individual partners might drop out.
Yeah.
But
infrastructurally, that's a very different setup. Like, what I'm talking about really is if you want to live and work where you feel at home, right? So let's say you're from County Clare, you want to live and work in County Clare, and you're in a 2 or 3 or 4 person partnership and you have all the infrastructure around that. A lot of those partnerships break down, and they break down because sometimes they're not really coherent businesses. There may be 3 or 4 practitioners working together and sharing costs. And then the question becomes, am I bringing in more than you? Am I consuming more costs than you are? All those kinds of things. And fractures come into play. So I think partnership at that level, whether it's in the accountancy industry or any other industry, they tend not to last that long. And so our model is very different from that. I'm CEO, I'm appointed by a board, and then we have a partner group, which are a non-equity partner group, but they are well remunerated, obviously, or they wouldn't stay with us as well, even though they might love the culture and the values and the ethos and all those things. So it's getting that blend right, that little bit of magic that makes it a great place to work, a great thing to be part of, that you can align with the values, align with the culture. And it actually comes up a lot at interview now, and when we were interviewing people who were interested in coming to work with us, and you asked them, what's your current employer all about? The answer generally is it's about making the shareholders wealthy. And you might say, well, how aligned are you with that? And they'd say, we're not aligned with that at all. It's one of the reasons that they're coming to talk to us. So we're just a very different model, Conal, very different.
Do you know what's very different as well is that you are, as we mentioned at the very beginning, you're employing 500 odd people. I saw on your website that if you're applying for a job, that you can actually you can email a guy called John Donoghue, who happens to be the CEO, and say, am I right? This is up on your website.
Correct.
Tell me why you'd love to work here, type of thing.
Yeah. And that happens.
Now, I could be rude and say, come on, are you that desperate? Or I could be nice and say, is that really... does it work? How many emails do you get from people looking for jobs?
Well, I'll answer that question a different way if you don't mind, Conal.
Please do.
I sit in on the second round interview with everybody who's qualified or above coming into the business. So I don't meet the graduates, but I meet everybody pretty much above that. And that's really, and this might sound crazy, but it's a values and culture sense check. So they've already come through first round interviews, and we do psychometric testing and all that good stuff. So they've kind of proven that they can do the job. And I'm there to determine really if this person is a fit for our organisation. And it is an organisation, right, which is very important. And so that's where that sits. I'm heavily involved in recruitment. And we hire you see loads of companies hiring for competence. We do that as well. But you hire for competence, fire for values. And we make sure the values are right coming in to avoid that messy stuff long term,
And how many emails do you get a week looking for jobs?
I get some emails, Conal. Okay. I get some emails, not that many.
I think it's cool. I like the idea that you're honest. You're up there. If somebody wants to email you, I'm sure you can sort wheat from chaff rapidly. Yeah. Back to Northern Ireland, because I'm interested in that one. What are the difficulties that you have faced? Is Brexit a pain, or in trying to get a 32 county operation going?
Brexit's not that big an issue. I suppose, like in any market, doesn't matter where you're going, you have to have a decent connection to that market. And that's why the strategy really is buy and build. Like if we were starting from scratch, opening a new door in any town in the country, doesn't matter whether it's in Northern Ireland or in the south, it will take us about 7 years to get to the point where we're at kind of break-even point. and then you can grow from there. So it's really an accelerated kind of model to go buy and build and drive on from there. And ideally, we'd have some of our own people to pop in there that can kind of influence the thing once we acquire it and go from there.
Assuming all is good, when do you think you might land one of them?
I'd say probably over the next year or two.
Oh, that long?
Yeah. Look, I mean, we're here 48 years gone. We're not going to rush things. We're going to do things right. And so we'll take a little bit of time. And this is a very important acquisition for us. And any acquisition we do is very important and time consuming.
All the other accountancy firms listen to this podcast, of whom there are many. They're going to run up there now and just knock on every door and say,
yeah,
do you want to talk to us?
like all these things, Conal, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Final question that we ask everybody, John. Who would John Donoghue hire in a heartbeat?
I was thinking about this one. It's a tricky question. I've probably done it a few times in the context I've had people that I've met over the years, and I said that would be a great person for us in the future. And when the right job came up, then we did go and hire people. I'd say in this instance, without any limitations, I would say Paschal Donohoe would be a great hire.
Why?
I've only met him a couple of times, but I think he's a highly capable individual, very, very clever, understands economics to a very high degree, understands the whole taxation policy to a very high degree, and he probably has a few good connections as well, Conor. Yeah.
Which always helps in business, isn't that right?
It does, yeah.
John Donoghue, CEO IFAC, thank you so much for joining us on That Great Business Show.
DoneDeal Motors is home to Ireland's largest range of new and premium used cars. That's why you'll find cars from Audi and BMW dealerships on DoneDeal. Are you looking for a 7-seater to accommodate your growing family? Maybe you're after a luxury saloon to make a statement. We have the car for you. You'll also find Ireland's largest range of electric cars to help you make the switch. Visit DoneDeal.ie today to start the search for your next car.
De facto shaving oil, made only from natural oils. Nothing nasty on your skin.
All That Great Business Show advertisers are Team GBS approved. Back them.
And that's it from That Great Business Show, episode 134. Those are 45 minutes of business insights and inspiration, thanks to our sponsor, DoneDeal.ie. And that is the place to find your next car, new or second-hand. And don't forget our survey, thatgreatbusinessshow.com. Give us your great ideas, and one lucky listener will win a month's free advertising on That Great Business Show. It takes less than 5 minutes. Do it right now, and you could be a winner. Keep in touch on our LinkedIn page. We're fast approaching 11,000 followers there, and that is where supporters like Pat Reed give us great ideas. And if you want to advertise with us, contact us through LinkedIn too. We record at the Dublin South Podcast Studios, where Lee, I'll give your survey a piece of my mind, Brennan, is today's sound engineer. Later on, Neil Horner twiddles with his knobs to make us the best sounding podcast on the planet. So from me, Conal O'Moran, míle buchas for listening agus slán tunnel.